So now, for the past 4 years, many Ukrainians have shared their stories with us, and we saw some of them in their most difficult moments live on air. One of them was Maria Shuvalova. I spoke with her in February of 2022 when she was in a car leaving her place in Kyiv.
I'm with my family trying to find safer place, because if you're living near the airport, it's nice recommendation to get to the shelters that it's not near the military objects.
Now, Maria Shuvalova joins us today on this 4th anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you so much for covering this topic.
You know, when you listen back to yourself, and I don't know if you remember our conversation on that day, the day that the full-scale invasion was launched by Russia into Ukraine, what was going through your mind in that moment?
I couldn't believe it's actually happening, and I really appreciate you shared with me the worst day in my life and the most horrible experience. And today, again, I also can't believe it's still happening for 4 years. My shock is shocked, and I still cannot comprehend that.
You know, when we were listening into what you were saying 4 years ago during our conversation, you said that you and your family were looking for somewhere to go outside of Kyiv. I'm wondering where you ended up and then where you are now 4 years later.
We ended up at my uncle's place, which is not so far from Kyiv, but behind Kyiv Oblast. And that was so nice to be in a house familiar to you, to ground up a bit. And it was a place when we realized that we're definitely not able to leave the country because we don't want. Also, it was so stupid of us to think that you can be safe further from Kyiv, because that place also was not really safe. It was attacked by missiles constantly. So in few weeks, we just got back to Kyiv and started figuring out how to live in big city during the war.
So to that end, you are still in Ukraine's capital on this 4th anniversary of the invasion. And we know that the sound of bombs and missiles, as you've described, has sort of become a part of everyday life for people who are living in Ukraine. Talk to us a little bit about the impact this has had on you and what your life was like 4 years ago before that moment, and how it's changed so drastically now.
Oh, it's hard to cover in a short conversation, but basically every year is harder and harder, and not because you are more tired, but also because civilians get worse and worse treatment, because the energetic infrastructure is so often attacked that this month and last 3 months, I'm having electricity 2 hours per 2-3 days, and I still have to proceed with all my duties. And also no heating. That means that in apartment it's 5 Celsius because the winter was extremely cold. But also Russians started attacking water facilities and sewerage. That means you also don't have toilet. So, but of course you have to do all your duties, but you don't have electricity, you don't have water. You live on the 14th floor, so to grab the water, you need to grab water canisters and lift that by your foot to the 14th floor. You can't use toilet. And that's what's happening for a few months. So, and of course, night bombardment. So you are sleep deprived. So actually, I don't know. The next step after that is just flying to the space. So with all this physical training, it's just physically very extreme. And also you need to fulfill your other duties. That's what civilians are facing. And it's also hard to imagine. And I don't know how to explain that. I believe in such conditions, you are not having enough sources to comprehend. You're so focused to complete your daily duties every day, because, of course, I just feel luxurious in these conditions because my friends, my female friends, my brother, they are on the front line and they are not having 5 Celsius, they're having -13 in trenches.
That is what I wanted to ask you next. So many residents, civilians, have taken up arms in order to join this fight for Ukraine. I'm wondering if there's finally a personal story you can share with us about those who you know who are on the front lines.
I believe the most recent story is my beloved friend. She's also a scholar, a mom of 4 kids, Katerina Zarembo. She's a writer. When the war started, she went to Germany to make her kids a bit safer, and her youngest kid was 3 months. But a bit later, she made a choice to come back, start training, and a year ago, she joined the army as a medic. And I was just texting with her and checking how she is, because I don't know, it's perspective changing to have your female friends and mothers changing their lives and going to the front line, especially scientists and writers who are not seeing other option as to take personal responsibility and to do whatever they can to provide an example and encourage each of us to do a bit more than we every day do, because we still have a chance not to have this war to last 5 or 6 years. For me, it's a reminder of personal responsibility.
Maria, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your experience over the past 4 years, and also for sharing with us that story of one of your friends as well, who's on the front lines. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you for supporting Ukraine.
That is Maria Shuvalova. She's a resident of Kyiv. Thank you.